because I think it's so obvious that the way that the presentation space is evolving, we're all presenting via video conference tools, we're all sharing our screens, but also we're working on like separate time zones. It's so obvious that collaboration and communication is not only simultaneous at the same time, but rather asynchronous. So you might want to hear my presentation from Sofia. I think you're in Sofia. I actually didn't ask. I'm here in Sydney. It's so hard to actually meet at decent times, and with video recordings in presentations, what we call talking presentations, that just feels like you're actually hearing the person present, but you're only consuming really a video experience, if that makes sense.
Hey everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the World of Presentations podcast brought to you by us at Presentation Agency 356 Labs. My name is Boris, I'm the founder of the company, and this episode is a special one. Why, you may ask, this episode is a special one? Well, the reason is because we have Canva with us. And for those of you who still don't know what Canva is, well, let's just say it's a product that's being used by a little more than 80 million people on a monthly basis. Nothing special, you know. However, who do we have from Canva with us? We actually have their product lead, whose name is Pol, or Pol, how do we pronounce it correctly in Spanish?
Yeah, Pol's fine. I would say Pol if I was speaking Catalan or Spanish, but yeah, that was fine. Thanks.
Brilliant. So Pol is going to be joining us for this episode. He is going to join us also for Present to Succeed Conference 2022. He has a session on the 8th of April as part of the event. Plus, and super importantly, Canva are also our biggest and general sponsor for this year's event. Pol, welcome to the podcast. And yet again, let me just say it out loud. Thanks again for trusting us and just partnering with us in such a big way for the event.
Our pleasure. Excited to be here, and I'm obviously super interested in the topic of presentations as a product person in the presentation space. So happy to be here.
Let's start. Let's start with what happened on your end. I mean, you worked for a company that's called Typeform. You were based in Spain, and then something happened. You moved to Australia, and now you work as a product lead for Canva. How did that happen?
Yeah, I actually have no idea. Imposter syndrome
Okay.
all over. It's imposter syndrome all over. But yeah, my journey to Canva and the industry was actually quite serendipitous, to be honest. There was not intentional at all. I don't have a technical background, so how I came across the tech industry goes actually back to my uni days in New York. I started working for a website design agency. And after that, I moved back to Barcelona, joined Typeform on my first tech experience. And there's actually learning to be shared there, which I don't know if it's going to be super relevant, but I really wanted to get into product management, but it's very, very hard to get a PM job when you don't have any previous experience. So my objective was get into Typeform with any role that you can actually prove valuable to, that it's a little bit more matching my skill set coming out of uni. And I did that, and then internally I found it was a little bit easy to demonstrate your curiosity and how you really want to become that first product manager role that I landed at Typeform. So I don't know if that's a learning for anyone, but I thought I'd share it. And that's definitely a learning experience that's worth 1,000 Medium articles, because you can start shadowing people, you start working with PMs and actually doing their jobs or alongside them. And it's a lot easier to justify and go to the head of product and say, hey, I want a PM job, when you've worked for them for a bit and they've seen your interest and everything. But anyway, going on that tangent here, back to how I ended up working at Canva. So I was at Typeform as a PM, and I actually started working with somebody that used to work here at Canva. He's not here anymore, but he was working at Canva in a space, let's say in a problem that I actually had worked at Typeform, and we connected on LinkedIn. He was asking a bunch of questions, just sharing experiment learnings and a bunch of our experience. And at the end of that sort of like knowledge sharing partnership, he actually reached out and say, hey, we're looking for PMs at Canva. We're obviously growing at like crazy. I was a user of Canva. I actually used it in Typeform to organize movie nights. So it was a pretty cool use case of me using Canva in my own in the company that I was working for. And it was also even more attractive because it meant moving to Sydney, which after living in New York and being from Barcelona, I think like the only city I would have moved to was Sydney. So yeah, here I am. I started as a PM for a different space that wasn't presentations, and then about a year and a half ago, I actually moved into presentations, which is a group we have internally. And about some time ago, between that, I think less than a year, I took on the product lead role, which is amazing because we pretty much oversee strategy for how we think of presentations at Canva, and that is definitely a big question and something that I'm really really enjoying.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, that is a hell of a run so far. So, so that was a little bit more about Canva. Now, our listeners and the audience itself should be knowing what Canva is, I think, because a lot of the people here that are listening are, of course, we have some people in the presentation industry and presentation experts, consultants, presentation designers, of course, but many people that are listening to this one are business professionals, HRs, marketing people, even IT people are listening to the podcast. So I think everyone nowadays knows Canva. And still, what is Canva? Like, if you have to describe it, what is Canva?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think simply put, Canva is an online visual communication tool, and what that means is that with Canva you can design pretty much anything. And if there's something that you can't design with it yet, it's most likely in our roadmaps. We're actually working on it. So that goes from like social media posts and stories to event invitations, postcards, t-shirts, hoodies, and even for workplaces, as you were mentioning, Canva does bring together that what used to be very complex tools with high learning curves into one place. So it's easy to create professional on-brand visuals, and it's obviously also worth highlighting that with Canva you can now also produce and edit videos, which is yet another thing you can design with it. And shameless plug, of course, as presentations PM, you can also create jaw-dropping presentations. So a little bit of everything that you can do with Canva.
Yeah, I think that one of the huge differentiators, by the way, with Canva is the speed that you can create things with. Like, it is crazy. It is craziness, and the fact that there are so many, there are so many templates that you can start with is just absolutely phenomenal and wins people over very very easily. What are you, by the way, hearing from your customers? Like, what are they saying that they love in the product? Let's focus on the presentation product because you probably have way more data, way more context on the presentation product now. What are people saying? What is their feedback? Why do they love it so much?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think at the end of the day, and this is pretty cliche from the PM side of things to be saying this, but Canva is solving so many real problems. Like one of them, obviously, with what you mentioned, the lengthy task and tedious task that is to put together a presentation or a design. Canva just makes it easier and quicker. So first answer to that is for sure we're solving real and important problems for our users. It's super easy to use, or we'll really focus on making it really, really easy to use. So it really is a tool that's accessible to everyone and not really something that only when you've studied 5 years of design you can actually use. That's what we don't want to become. I think you're right. Like I think a big part of our success as a product and how we're really solving problems well is that it is a template first product, which is that you start with a source of inspiration. The breadth of the templates we have is so diverse, and there's so many, and also like pretty much everything you need to design, all the ingredients you need to design, is in one same place. So before you used to go to Google and pick up your photos, pick up your videos, bring it back to the tool of choice. Now everything's in Canva. So stock photography, videos, even audio. We have soundtracks. You name it, it'll be there. And again, if it's not there, it'll soon be. We're probably working on it. Yeah, and of course, like I don't want to forget, like especially in this async and remote context that we're all in right now, team on collaboration, teams and collaborations, and all the functionality around. So commenting, the ability to collaborate simultaneously in one same design, all of that is table stakes nowadays, and Canva also supports it. But I really like that, at least for presentations you were asking, I really like that you pointed the quickness of it, because that actually one of my favorite tweets or customer feedback to see is when I see, for example, students tweeting about how Canva saved their lives because they just realized they had to submit a presentation due tomorrow morning and they only had an hour to put it together. That was like content, design, everything. And just because they started from Canva, they were actually praised on how good, well designed their presentation was and all that sort of stuff. And that those just feel so real in terms of like life situations. I've been there as a kid, I've been there as a student, and I didn't have Canva back then. So those are definitely the tweets that really make me smile and be proud of the product we're building.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is mind blowing, and I have to probably Google it myself at some point because there is some things, the sheer scale of templates that there are in the library. I think that they're also getting updated from time to time, right? Like, is there a period that you are like, there is a presentation design team that has a task in their project management tool that says, hey, every now and then, every month, we have to build two new templates for the product. Is there something like that?
Absolutely, yeah. We
Okay.
have like I cannot talk highly enough of the teams we have working on template creation. They're focused, as you were saying, in specific categories, product verticals. So we have the
Yes.
presentations template squad, and their work is amazing. Not only they take care of the older templates and really maintain our gallery so it's really up to date, but also they're constantly investigating what are the trends in the market, what are the trends in Twitter, in TikTok, and what is like how can our gallery really stay up to date in terms of like our
Yeah.
visuals, our elements, and also our content, right? So on that sense, like working with that team is something incredible, because templates are the bread and butter of our product, and they're constantly taking care of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where I have heard it, but I think that just Australia and Sydney has like super powerful design schools. You know, like I think I have heard it somewhere. I don't know if that team is just people from Australia. I doubt that, to be very honest. But probably most of them, if I'm probably most of them will be somewhere from Australia. And I have heard
Well,
that there is just, yeah. Do you
most
know
of the
whether
teams
or not?
most of the team is actually in Manila. That's where our template
Okay.
creation hub is, and they've been there since the very beginning. There's also, it's like part of the templates team is also here in Australia and even globally. So, but of course, it's super diverse. But yeah, the design thinking that goes into template creation is incredible. And
Amazing,
about
amazing.
every couple weeks, a monthly basis, I meet with them and they sort of present their work, and I constantly just sit back and I'm like, folks, you did it
Wow.
again. So that's amazing.
Wow. Brilliant. At some point, we also need to participate and join somehow and just publish or send something over to you for review and see whether or not it can be part of the product. That would be nice, though.
Yeah,
We
we
have
should
to
do
think
that.
about that collaboration. We have to think about that. All
Yeah.
right, going back to the original questions that we discussed before this episode started, and not going sideways. One of the things that we wanted to discuss here was, because Canva, obviously, the templates are something that's being updated so often, and there is a huge team behind it. What are the other things that got updated or got announced, I would say, in the last 3 to 6 months, that are of huge importance, again, just in the presentation product? Because
Mhm.
nowadays Cisco WebEx, Zoom, all of those platforms are just getting new updates on a weekly basis, even sometimes because of security issues and stuff.
Mhm.
But I bet, and from what I can see, every single time when I log into Canva, is just, wait a minute, this was not here. Wait a minute, what's
Yeah.
happening here? Like,
Yeah.
there was a little bit about like what are the top few things that got announced in the last 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had to think a little bit about this one because I obviously want to make it like relevant to presentations. But the one thing that as a PM of presentation comes back to mind as something we recently launched, and it was definitely by far one of the most requested features that we had as a presentation product was tables. It's obviously very we call it internally table stakes product because it's like something that presentations needs to have, and it was almost something that because we didn't have, some users were actually reluctant to using us. So by it's been I don't want to say years in the making, but really long time us building proper table support, because that's the thing at Canva as well, is like we know we want to build something, but we don't necessarily just want to look at the competition and imitate and copy what they're doing, but rather challenge and say, how can we build the same, but really respecting all the philosophies and principles of how we do things at Canva. So easy to use, template first. So you always start with the inspiration of what a table could look like, before even choosing the cells and this sort of stuff. And anyway, those are all just like sort of background stories to how we build tables. But very happy to say today, at least, that tables are in the presentations product, and in fact across Canva they're available to everyone. They're obviously free, like the rest of Canva is. And hopefully we won't hear more customer feedback that there's no tables, because we have them, and it's been by far the easiest to prioritize, because as a PM it was so obvious we needed them, but also the hardest to deliver. And I'm so happy to announce that they're actually here in the product. So that's first one update. Tables is in our presentations product.
Yeah.
Secondly, probably one of my favorite, something we've been working for throughout the last year, but recently, alongside our video team internally, we shipped for both presentations and video, is the ability to do video recordings while you're presenting, or even to add yourself as what we call a talking head to your presentations. Which I say it's one of my favorites, because I think it's so obvious that the way that the presentation space is evolving, we're all presenting via video conference tools, we're all sharing our screens, but also we're working on like separate time zones. It's so obvious that collaboration and communication is not only simultaneous at the same time, but rather asynchronous. So you might want to hear my presentation from Sofia. I think you're in Sofia. I actually didn't ask. I'm here in Sydney. It's so hard to actually meet at decent times, and with video recordings in presentations, what we call talking presentations, that just feels like you're actually hearing the person present, but you're only consuming really a video experience, if that makes sense. And this is something
Yeah.
that's so contextual to the times that are living, that it is really one of my favorite features we've launched.
Yeah. By the way, I'm just a question on my end. How about the transitions and the overall animations things? Because these for sure got an update. Like
Yeah.
it was, I think, a year ago I saw them for first time. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently I was showing something to one of our customers, and I was like, I'm not sure that that was the same experience before. This looks way better now, and there are so
Yeah.
many more like options. Was there also something updated in the last
Yeah,
year?
yeah. Yeah, by the way, I don't want to steal anyone's credit. Everything that I'm talking about, it's not necessarily built by the presentations team, but rather we actually, one of the best things we have at Canva is that everyone's building for everyone. So what we build for presentations, you
That's
can
nice.
also enjoy in different designs, and like Instagram posts, social media. And what's really good that you were pointing out, transitions and animations actually were built by our video team. So even though it really augmented what you can do in presentations, and it adds so much value because transitions are now way more fancy, it was built by video team. So I gotta thank publicly video team for really upping our transition and animation game. But you're completely right. It shipped about I think over a year ago. We shipped our first versions of animations and slide transitions, and then video just took them to a whole different level recently. Because obviously with video you need a little bit more advanced use cases for transitions. So we inherited them in presentations, which we're super happy about.
Yeah, that's nice. I didn't know that the architecture of the solution is like that. Like you just build it once and then everyone reuses it. That's so
Yeah.
nice and so clever in the same time. I mean, that is great to hear. So I cannot us discussing what happened in the last 6 months leads to the question, what's coming in the next 6 months?
Yeah.
Can we talk about this, or is this something that we have to wait for your session at Present to Succeed?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to create a little bit of excitement and sort of delegate to my future Pol, presenting on Present to Succeed for some of it. But I do want to give you something, and I think something that's actually public, and that I think it's a really exciting space, especially for me as a Canva presentation PM. I don't know if you've heard about it, but I'm really, really excited about Canva's recent acquisition of Flourish, which if you don't know the product, you should absolutely check it out. I actually had a play with it today with a friend, and he was completely impressed. Flourish is a UK-based company with possibly the best data visualization and data storytelling product out there. So they've built an incredible platform used by more than I believe it's 800,000 people. And in the same way that Canva has been working towards our mission of empowering the world to design, the Flourish team has been working to empower everyone to tell stories with data, by making what sounds really complex and needs complex software into making it available to everyone via an easy solution, which Flourish is. So that's why the symbiosis Flourish meets Canva was so clear. So yeah, I think that one as an update, I could not be more excited about all the data visualization power and magic, because it truly is a magic product that Flourish brings into Canva. I've already actually seen some really cool examples about how the users that we're testing the Canva Flourish integration, what they're thinking about. It's insane. It's so like such cool use cases.
Yeah, I will definitely check them out for sure. I was typing on my other screen here that we need to link this up, make sure that their platform is also as part of the show notes so that people
Mhm.
can check it out. So we are expecting some integration, obviously, there in some point in the future. Obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be merged between two companies and still the companies operate separately. I can imagine that everything that those guys did, you are going to somehow incorporate in Canva, which is going to be crazy, obviously. Okay, that is nice. That is nice. So there was a little bit more. Obviously, you are going to be releasing some interesting news. Let's put them this way, as part of your session at the event.
Mhm.
What else can people expect at the session that you are going to hold at on the 8th of April? I
Mhm.
know that you are not going to be alone. Let's start there. So,
Yeah.
what can people expect?
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta say, first of all, as a Marvel fan, well, the MCU universe, I don't want to give away too much in the trailers, so again, I'll keep it light. But as to our session in April, you're right. I won't be alone. We have Ashley, our product marketer for our presentations at Canva, and myself, who will be talking about how recent times have shaped the way we communicate and collaborate, and especially what this means for presenting. So super excited to show everyone how with Canva you can really look beyond traditional slides, and really deliver your message impactful in pretty much any scenario, and truly connect with your teams and audiences at every step. Which honestly, at the end of the day, it's the most important thing when
Yeah.
presenting, but especially since we've all gone to video conferencing tools, and sometimes it can be a little bit more boring for the audience to engage with what it's being presented. The presentation software really needs to support an experience that allows those two parts to connect and engage and interact.
Yeah. All right. You're definitely keeping it light. That is for sure. I give you that one. I give you
Not
that
even
one.
like
All
actually,
right.
yeah.
All right. So we are going to expect that one. We're going to expect some news. And for sure, I also have to mention that there are some news here because all together with everything that we're doing, with uh, with Canva, what we are going to be doing is also a pitch competition. That's going to be something completely separate from the session, from the event itself. Not separate from the event, but I would say that everyone who is listening, everyone who is watching on YouTube right now, if you are seeing this video before the Present to Succeed conference, which is going to take place on the 7th and the 8th of April, monitor every hour, like any channel that we have. We're going to be announcing the pitch competition there, and it will be something that you definitely don't want to miss. All right. Take a look at what we're doing together with Canva. I think you will love it. And please join us and participate. There will be some really cool awards at the end. Anyway, Paul, we are very close to the end here. There was a little bit more. There was actually more about where can people connect with you. What is the best channel for them to speak to you, and should we mention where people can find more about Canva? I'm not sure about that, but let's start. Let's start with where can people find you and connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm guilty these days of not being too much on top of my emails, so I won't give my email. But definitely feel free to connect with me, or in fact, pretty much any other Canva node via LinkedIn. I think it's probably best.
Okay.
So I can also answer the question, I think, on where to find more about Canva. So to keep up to date, I'm going to do the cliche of obviously subscribe to all of our channels. There's also what we
Yeah.
call the Canva newsroom, which is, if literally I went on Google to check it out before, Google Canva newsroom, and the first landing page you'll see, you can sign up and it will send the latest news and announcements. I think the latest post was actually the Flourish acquisition. So it's a good segue, I guess, into what I talked before. And of course, you can also follow our social media channels like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. It's actually pretty fun because they share a lot of background stories on how we built the product that you're all using and seeing. The engineers, the designers, the data analysts, the PMs behind the product make announcements of what are we launching and this sort of stuff. And it's also fun content. And of course, I wouldn't be PM if I wasn't saying this, but Canva is totally free to use. So if you actually want to check out what is happening, just go use the product, have a play with it. There's really a lot that's being added to the product every day. Just like Boris was saying, he logged in and he saw the like animations changing. I can promise you, there's so many other products that also change overnight, and hopefully in a
Yeah.
good way. But otherwise, you can test it out, and I'd love to hear your feedback on LinkedIn or anywhere else.
Yeah, brilliant. I personally will definitely shout out the newsroom page. That is for sure something that everyone who is using Canva or everyone that's planning to use Canva should take a look at and monitor and subscribe to. I personally didn't subscribe. I use another algorithm to keep an eye on this. I use a platform that's called visualpink.io, and this platform is actually allowing me to do screenshots of web pages. So
Oh, that's
when
cool.
they create a screenshot and then 1 week later they create another screenshot and compare, and if there are differences they send me email with the differences. This
Oh,
way I
wow.
know if you announce something new. So, yeah, so that is my way of keeping just with all of the updates for everything that I care about. So yeah, if you have an email newsletter, that's great. Obviously, you can subscribe from there. But for all of you who don't want to approach it this way, then approach it with Visual Pink or with a similar free service like that. Paul, that was a blast. 27 minutes already. Thanks for joining. Definitely looking forward to what you're going to be presenting at Present to Succeed in April 8th. Yeah, April 8th. So thanks again for being with us here.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So everyone, all the links, Paul's LinkedIn profile will be in the show notes. Canva's website will be in the show notes. The newsroom link will be in the show notes. All of the links will be in the show notes. Thanks for listening to everyone. Hope you found that one insightful and interesting. Subscribe to the podcast if you still haven't. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then make sure that you like, comment, share. You know how it goes. Everything matters, and we appreciate it. Thanks again, and see you soon.